Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Titans as well as the season premiere of Van Helsing. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look at the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you don't want to hear what I had to say about this week's episode of Titans, you can skip to what I had to say about the season premiere of Van Helsing. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Titans. A great episode, a lot of interesting backstory that I'm glad we finally get. We kind of take the time back 5 years ago where basically, for one, we kind of get introduced to kind of Deathstroke. And it's interesting in the grand scheme of things. I'm kind of be skipping around a little bit, but the episode basically makes it seems like Deathstroke in his universe started off as a Titans villain. It doesn't seem like he has any history of Batman because like this is Dick's like first time when they discover everything's behind, like it's Deathstroke involved. It's like, oh, this is the guy Deathstroke. It makes it seem like it wasn't a Batman thing at this point. So I feel like he starts off a Batman villain, then eventually becomes a Titans villain. But maybe in the comic books he's always been a Titans villain. Maybe that's where he first started off as, and then he transferred over into a bit of a Batman villain. I don't know. It's something I should do a little research into. But regardless, we see, him kind of doing his hits at the beginning, taking out witnesses and lawyers and judges, apparently, in a particular case, because, he's a hired gun. And then he gets another job. And my mind immediately went like, it's the Titans he's after, right? But later on, it makes it seem like maybe it was just one particular person. Maybe not. Like I said, we'll get to that soon enough. But we kind of get introduced to the Titans. They show up. They save the day when some bad guys are trying to rob this family. I love that. It's like, they show up one at a time, kicking some ass. Aqualad showing up at the last second, him and Donna. And Donna breaks open a fire hydrant, and he uses it to, knock the last guy down. It's like, yo. And I do like they immediately kind of set up the fact is that Donna... It's interesting. It seems like she kind of pushes herself away, not just from Garth, a.k.a. Aqualad. It's from the rest of the team, too. And it seems like, I'll kind of get to that in an instant. It's actually really neat when you actually get to see, Hank and Aqualad beside each other. Because if you're unaware, the actor who plays Hank/Hulk, Alan Ritchson, he played Arthur, a.k.a. Aquaman, back in the day on Smallville. I just thought that was kind of pretty neat. I'm trying to remember in retrospect, I feel like that was the first, non-meteor person that Clark met. Because obviously he met a couple over the course of the series, but I feel like Aquaman was Arthur was the first one. I could be wrong. But regardless, I just thought that was kind of a neat little thing to just seeing them side by side. Maybe there's a little bit of a wink and nod to the fact that they did it like that. But essentially, it turns into a thing of Garth has kind of had a thing for Donna. He even says it later on since they were 12, which I think that's such a neat little thing because it shows this whole sidekick thing of obviously they've known each other. Some of them, not all of them, because obviously Hulk and Hank and Dawn are kind of still new to this whole superhero thing. But obviously, Dick was, Batman's sidekick. Donna was Wonder Woman's sidekick. Obviously, Aqualad is, Aquaman's sidekick. Because we already know that Roy exists in this world, Red Arrow, Arsenal, but I'm assuming maybe Wally. That depends on what the continuity is, but I'm assuming the Flash exists, so maybe at this point in time he had Wally by his side as well. Like I said, depends on how they do everything in this universe, but they're the sidekicks that grew up around each other because their superhero counterparts are they're part of the Justice League and everything, so of course they mingle and stuff like that. So but Donna has this thing of she's supposed to go back to Themyscira in 6 months. It's supposed to be her thing. She's meeting with a woman named Jillian. I chalk that up to be a thing of Jillian is kind of that intermediary. I don't know if she's necessarily from Themyscira herself, but I think it's more so probably Diana's job, because she's a curator at museums and stuff like that. I think it's kind of her gig. I don't know what her specific job title is, but she kicks it at museums. It's kind of her job because we see that in Justice League, and I think it came up in Batman v Superman. But that's what Diana, not what she does as Diana, Prince. But the whole situation is, I'm assuming that Jillian is kind of tied to that. But the fact is, later on, it shows that she's not just a regular person. So maybe she's someone Diana like hired, because definitely she knows about the whole thing. So regardless, which she's kept an eye on Donna. So she's like, oh, why don't you just stop beating around the bush? We both know that this is all about Garth. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's... And she's like, well, you've been following this? It's like, yeah, you think I wouldn't keep an eye on you? Also, next time you want to get a cake, you should do this and that. So and I think that's such an interesting level to this whole thing, is like Donna wanted to pull away from the team. I immediately chalked that up to, I was like, I'm wondering why she's pushing away so hard. And it's because for her, she feels like, I got a destiny to go back to Themyscira and I'm going to be a warrior. And obviously, like, can't have like love and relationships kind of get in the way. And that also means relationship with these friends. So I think that's why, to a certain degree, she keeps everyone distant. That's why she kind of is thinking about leaving sooner. Hell, she even tells Dick, like, yeah, Jillian was like, I have to go now. And he's like, what? Do you want me to talk to her? He's like, no. Like, Jillian was willing to give you, like, she's like, hey, I got to, this whole exhibit's going to be going in like 2 weeks. By then, if you decide you want to go back to Themyscira, we can. But it's like the whole point was you're supposed to have extra 6 months to kind of experience the world. You wanted to be away from, kind of find your own way, aside from being beside, Diana the entire time. Much like, I'm sure, like, much like Garth, much like Robin. They just Dick. They all wanted to, find their own way. So... But I think because for her, she was enjoying herself too much, and she was afraid. I think when that 6 months came, the next 6 months came, she'd be worried that if she got too attached to this group, let her guard down with Garth, that maybe she won't want to return to Themyscira when the time came. I think that's what she was worried about. So she was kind of keeping her guard up, even lying to Dick like that, being like, yeah, Jillian's not going to change her mind. It's like, no, you're doing this. She's kind of running away, as Garth says later on. But this is all interesting too. No wonder like Dr. Light has such a problem with them, because this is literally like a villain they ended up taking down like 5 years ago. So it's like I guess that's why it all kind of ties together. Maybe it's just Slade thought like, oh, he'd be a good asset to have, which is interesting because we see that he ends up killing a colleague of his, because it's like that colleague basically took all the bare bones of what he had done on his research. Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, he didn't necessarily show the more scientific side of things for him, because I'm like, yeah, because I know Dr. Light's supposed to be a scientist, but they kind of reference it in this episode. I was like, okay, so that's it, because he just seems kind of like a bit of a sociopath, but I guess like the whole doctor aspect of him kind of got overshadowed by that serial villain killer vibe of his. So, but basically it was about some activator to basically, it juices his power even more. It lets him kind of take the power from like a nuclear weapon or something like that. So basically he'd be supercharged and walking around like a nuclear weapon himself. So it's actually kind of circling back to the Garth and Donna thing really quickly. It is kind of sweet when you hear that story. Like, it's like when they were younger, they'd swim together, and it's like, oh, she wanted to see a clownfish because she literally wanted to find Nemo. And it's like, it's like Garth was like, yeah, but those type of clownfish, they don't go in this particular water. And she's like, yeah, then why did I find one? And then it clicked in her head. It's like, wait, you brought that fish to a water that it doesn't naturally inhabit, just so that I can find it. And it was like, oh, that's super romantic and sweet. So I thought that was kind of neat. It's like for him, it's like, because later on Garth brings up the question of, well, we'll get to it. We'll circle back to it. But obviously there's this whole thing with taking down Dr. Light, which luckily working together, they do. I like the combo that they all kind of do. Like Arthur's keeping the beams at bay. Robin throws like an R battering at him, and his batterings essentially at him. Donna catches him off guard. Then Hank and Don hitting him like that at once, and Robin coming in for the killing blow. I mean, not killing blow, but still, they ended up taking him down as a team. I thought that was kind of a pretty neat element to the whole situation. So seeing them kind of work and orchestrate as a team, and Donna had a last minute chance to kind of back out of this whole leaving thing, but she goes for it. And she couldn't bring herself to tell Garth the truth, so they just did their thing. She wanted it, he wanted it, but it was just that thing of like, she wanted this lasting memory. Like, yeah, it probably will be tainted later on when he finds out the truth, but at least we had this moment, because I'm sure she wanted to leave with no, I mean, she already has regrets about the whole leaving thing, but I'm sure like she wanted to have one less. I mean, but she thought maybe she wanted and try to alleviate some of the pain later on, essentially. But Dick ends up telling him the truth, and she goes to track him down. And Garth goes and tracks her down, and it's like, come on. She's like, you're asking me to pick between you and my destiny. He's like, but the fact of the matter is, who's to say I'm not both, Because for him, it's like, are you running away because, you're the Themysciran warrior who kind of had to keep yourself, but I'm, Atlanteans, we kind of go with the flow of the motion we kind of live in right now. I don't think it's, like I said, she tried to be like, it's not like that. I don't think it's because he was kind of thinking like, is it just because I live in the moment and stuff like that? You think because of all that, I'm kind of a bit of aloof, and then maybe things won't work out later on because I'm kind of like, whoa, this is too serious. It's like, which that's not the case for him, like I said, because for him, it's like, I've loved you since I was 12 years old. I think what it stems from is for her, like I said, she's scared that it's going to get too real, and she's going to lose like the destiny, like, because for her whole entire life is basically been planned out for her. It's like, this is your destiny, this is where you belong, this and that. I mean, to be fair, Diana kind of broke away from that, but I guess to a certain extent, maybe Diana still has her ties to Themyscira, so she doesn't completely belong to the sort of world of men. I think because she, but I don't know. Maybe she still feels like, even being by Diana's side, and yeah, Diana's kicking it with the Justice League, but she'll always be heavily tied to Themyscira. That will always be her destiny. That will always be her first and foremost priority, maybe to a certain extent. So maybe Donna kind of feels that same allegiance of like, she's been told basically who she is her entire life, that this is where she's supposed to stand, this is where she's supposed to be. So she's scared because she wants more. She wants to be able to do whatever she wants to, and that means being with the person that she's obviously in love with. And Garth's about to walk away, but at the end, last second, she chooses him, and I think that means the world. But that moment doesn't last, because I was wondering the entire time, because I was like, well, the only person that hasn't come back is Aqualad, so he must be, turns out Slade killed him. The question then becomes, well, was Donna the actual target, or was Garth? Or is it the entire Teen Titans team? Because obviously he's a mercenary, he's hired gun. So maybe it's a situation of, hey, he's a bad, these are good guys that are interfering with some criminal business dude who's like, I want you to take out those Titans. Maybe it specifically has something to do with Donna. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's not just some criminal person. I'm curious to circle back around to find out who specifically hired Slade and how many targets were they. Because not only did he kill Aqualad, it seemed like he was going for Donna as well, so. But if it wasn't for Jillian kind of throwing her borderline shuriken that split the bullet, that was pretty impressive. So that's why I'm like, she ain't no normal lady. So whatever the case may be, now all of them have kind of got revenge in their heart. And even like Dawn and Dick had this moment earlier where it's like, hey, don't be Batman. It's like, in this moment, be Batman. Not that he has to literally become Batman. That's what I thought the trailer was kind of indicating. And it's like, no, be that person. Kind of like go to that line. Like normally he'd kind of pull him, like obviously there's still that separation of he won't go as far as Bruce would. I'm assuming that this is before he ended up leaving Bruce's side. I'm assuming like what we saw in season 1 about why he kind of walked away, not just from being Robin, but also being at Bruce's side. I'm curious, is this after this? That most likely took place after the Titans thing, because obviously this whole Titans thing goes back at the bare minimum at least 5 years. We don't know how much further back that goes, so. It's also sad too, because we know this whole situation is ultimately why him and Dawn didn't work out. It's kind of interesting because obviously Hank and Dawn were a thing. Things kind of split up, but they stayed a group, even though like there's a whole like Dick and Dawn dating, so that's a whole complicated thing. But still, like, revenge is in their hearts. It's like, we got to take him down. And I think it's the point of like, and it's Jillian kind of talked about like revenge, like the kind of basically talking about the path that revenge will send you down. And so it turns into a whole thing of like, okay, So now that that's kind of been set in their minds, they're kind of willing to do whatever it takes. And it seems that whatever it takes means going specifically after Slade's son, Jericho, which we got introduced to earlier in the episode. Interestingly enough, Jericho's mom is the actress who plays Jill Saya. I was like, what? Which is like perfect timing. If you don't know, Killjoy's the final episode literally aired last week. So it's just kind of perfect time. I was like, I just, so I just kind of lost my mind in that. But the fact is, like, he was outside of their place and everything. And I was like, why are you hiding? I was like, is this kid the target? I was like, that'd be kind of messed up. But it's like, who is this person? It's like, we always got to be on guard. The moment Dick shows up later on, I'm like, that's Jericho. That's Slade's son, isn't it? And so he's befriending him and everything. And so now in the grand scheme of things, you're like, okay, so his mom was trying to hide him from Slade. That's the person's like, we got to be on the lookout for this and that. That's why he was kind of stalking them and stuff. But then makes the question, why is it just your son? Was Rose supposed to show up later on, or are you separate? Like, Rose might be like they might be half siblings. They might not be like full brother and sister. They might be like, Slade might be both their dads, but they might have different moms. Maybe that's the whole situation. I don't know. Maybe their mom just kind of abandoned her and took Jericho, maybe because it's like, which kind of probably left Rose with the craziness that is their dad until she probably eventually ran away. Maybe, I don't know. I'm interested to kind of dive into that, why she wasn't there. Like I said, not unless she shows up later on, because this is only like 5 years ago. So there's that. But that brings up, that was so interesting because remember what Rose said? It's like, hey, my dad killed my brother because he was with the wrong crowd. And like the way Dick was kind of acting, hearing the name Jericho, it's like he knew exactly. Like probably the moment he found out, like, this is Slade's kid, that's probably why he's making even more of an effort to kind of bond with her. The moment he found out, because he's trying to make up for what they did, because their need for revenge got someone killed. Because that was what I was thinking. Like, it was more so like he was kicking out the heroes. Now, whether he becomes one or not, whether or not it's just like a thing, because they're probably using him as bait. They know, like, they probably looked into Slade's history and found out, like, he has a son. We can use this to his advantage. Because the big question then becomes like, well, if they found out about having a son, why didn't they find out about him having a daughter? Or maybe Dick has known the entire time. So maybe back then he found out. Well, no, because even the rest of the team didn't know about Rose. So not unless that's something he found out about years ago, but he never shared with everyone. Like I said, we'll have to figure that out as the time comes. But I just think that's such an interesting thing. So that's why, Dick is doing all that he's doing, because, like I said, I'm sure it's like he was used as a hostage, but when the time came, I doubt it was them, but maybe, because I don't see any of them being the ones that killed Jericho, but I'm thinking he got caught in the crossfire of like, Slade probably thought he could get his son back. So it's like, I'm going to take you down myself. And in the crossfire, Jericho ended up dying. So yes, it was Slade. But like I said, I had a feeling like the moment Rose finds out the Titans had something to do with her brother's death, like that might shift the tide. She might actually kick it with her dad. Or maybe she might just kind of give both of you the middle finger and try to take you both out. Either way, that's kind of a lot of heaviness to kind of throw into you, like, kind of end the episode like that. I was like, wow, straight up killing Aqualad, which let's not forget, present day, Slade does have Jason, so, which is interesting. Jason, Jericho, the whole Jay situation. So I'm like, and like I brought that up last episode, we know what happens to Jason, like, the infamous thing that happened to Jason before the whole Red Hood situation. Like I said, the Joker thing happened to him. Now, under these circumstances, like I said, are they going to do that to him in this circumstances? Rather than being Joker, they switch it up and make it Deathstroke and make it a more personal story as to why Deathstroke went after Jason like that. Because that's probably what set him off. It wasn't just like, it's probably like I said, it wasn't just Jason being like, Titan's back. It's a Robin. I brought that up last episode, like, what made you come out of retirement after all this time? Because they thought you were dead. So what brought you back in this moment? It was you seeing a Robin publicly on TV and him saying the words Titans that pissed you off. It might not even just been Titans. All that it probably took was seeing someone dressed up like Robin to kind of set it off in motion. But hearing that the Titans were back, it's like, got to come out of retirement, got to burn each one of you, burn you to the ground, make you suffer. That's why he's kind of going about this, not just straight up killing them, why he's kind of got this long plan about dividing and conquering. So, like I said, that's still the big question. what happens to Jason? Like, is his fate kind of sealed? Well, ultimately, kind of have to wait and see. But I'm very interested to see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. Hopefully, along the way, we do get a little more backstory. I wonder, is Dick ever going to tell them the truth about everything? Because admitting the truth to them would also mean admitting the truth to Rose, and I don't know if that's something he's quite ready to deal with, because like there's a lot of mistakes he made back then because he let the darkness in him kind of take control. He'd already kind of started slipping down that route. That's why he kind of left this whole Robin and Batman behind. But now it's like, it's hindsight is 2020. Taking what he knows now, like obviously, he wasn't the same person he is now, who he was then, so it's a whole complicated thing. I'm really interested to kind of dive into that. And like I said, find out who was it that actually employed Slade to take the hit, so I can't wait to see what the next episode has in store for us. And now moving on to the season premiere of Van Helsing, a great season premiere. Hell of a way to start off this season. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode. So let's break it down. I think Van Helsing does a very nice job of they leave you on season finales that quickly jump into their season premieres. Because every season finale to season premiere is literally immediately picking up, which is always interesting. Not every show does that. Some shows do, but not every show does. Regardless, obviously we have Lily and Vanessa fighting Sam, but Sam's still too much of a tough customer for them to handle, and he still comes out on top. I might have brought this up during the season 3 finale. I like the fact is that he kind of fights with his horns. She'll slash at one point and he'll duck down to kind of guard with his horns and stuff like that. I don't know. I just thought it's just kind of an interesting manner of fighting. But it does look like they will lose, but Lily comes in, whack with her blade. The light won't be extinguished. Obviously not her words, I'm paraphrasing. But I was like, okay. I was like, is Lily about to straight up kill Sam? Because I was curious about it. I don't think Sam's going down that easily. I think he was in the trailers, but I don't remember. It's been a little while since I saw the trailer, but regardless, there's a whole situation of she's going and then he stops her, and I love it. It's kind of that moment of just his head is literally hanging on by a swivel, and he kind of lifts it up and pops it back into place. So even together, even with Vanessa's powers, they are no match for Sam. Stupid powerful, but the Oracle stops him from killing them, because it's for everything to play out to resurrect the Dark One, they need at least one of Van Helsing. So it's if you want to, kill one of them. So, but because of the Oracle's interference, because Sam's a little bit of in a sick, twisted way, a bit of an artist, and it's no, you don't get to tell me what to do. I'm gonna do my thing. I want to be free and not under anyone's control. So they go back and forth, which gives Vanessa and Lily time to escape with the the necklace thing that's got the vial of blood in it. So that happened, but they do kind of come to some agreement, the Oracle and Sam, which is basically it seems like they started a relationship, which I guess it kind of makes sense, because the Oracle's I've literally been there your entire life. Which is kind of interesting. It's every these different, that point in your life all those years ago, what was kind of your beginning, I was there. Here, I'm also here at your other new beginning to a certain extent. But it's almost it's interesting because they're creating this dynamic of the Oracle and Sam are going to be lovers, which is weird in a way. I didn't expect the relationship to turn to that. But she's I also thought it was kind of neat how it's her I think the actress who plays her, I'm pretty sure it's the same actress. It's just not wearing the makeup anymore. I guess because she can make herself look however she wants to. So now she's just, I guess, not doing the makeup thing. I mean, I guess that kind of works out for her, because that way she doesn't have to put on that whole bunch of makeup and stuff like that. Because it's interesting, because it's the same thing with Ivory and Scap. I feel I've never seen those. We've seen those actors without their makeup on once in this entire show, and that was season 2's finale. Or was it the episode before the finale? Either way, it was season 2. It was when we got a look at their human lives. But I almost forget, because I'm just so used to seeing them with makeup. It's always something like that. A great example, I'm not going to go into a tangent. I was about to, but regardless, it's just interesting. And it's kind of weird, because I'm I'm so used to seeing you with your makeup on, so it's a little weird to see without it. It's that thing. So, like I said, I just expect we'll probably see more. But it's almost what was that? I think it was Queen of the Damned I always associate that with, kind of being like a vampire sex thing of biting each other. Was it Queen and the Damned, or was it? I think that's a True Blood thing too. Regardless, it was just kind of interesting in biting each other's necks. This is about also. It's also crazy kind of seeing what the Oracle is capable of doing. Like she's got these telekinetic, like essentially she got Jedi abilities. She's got Force abilities, which is interesting. But at one point, she took over Ivory's body to kind of give out a message to kind of gather up the children, in particular the sisterhood of like, okay, this is what you need to do in the grand scheme of things. So I just thought that was just kind of interesting, just showing you how powerful she can be. But she makes reference to a mother of the vampires, and it's like the mother, the beloved of the Dark One. It's the second of three. Now, I didn't know how to interpret that. Either like supposed to meaning like she's like the second of three wives, is kind of like a harem type of thing, or is it supposed to be like so there's kind of sister wives things going on, or is it supposed to be like there are three people in general that are beloved to the Dark One? Is that what that's supposed to represent? I didn't know. Or is it supposed to be two, like she's one thing and then there's two others that we got. Or maybe the Dark One counts as the first, she counts as the second, and then maybe there's a third. I don't know. And I thought it was even interesting her being like, you could actually become the Dark One. So I think it's a thing of like, the Dark One isn't just a person, it's an entity. So like Sam could rise to the occasion and the Dark One could possess his body. But the question is, will he become the Dark One in that regard? Is it more kind of like a power, position, and title? Or is it an actual entity, which I'm assuming is an actual entity? So does that mean it will completely erase Sam? He'll think, oh, I'll be in control. But then the Dark One completely envelops his body. It's like, nah, this is mine now. Haha, I'm back. I don't know. So that's one side of thing. And since I brought up Scab and Ivory, let's talk about everything with that whole situation between Scab and Julius. Julius knowing just what buttons to push Scab, because Scab always kind of felt inferior because he was always kind of the lackey, because Julius kind of smacked him around and was like, know your place, and he's kind of using that. It's like, oh, are you still scared of me, Scab, like you've always been? Him and Scab kind of having a little bit of a one-on-one. Scab still kicking his ass because it's like, well, Julius doesn't have his superhuman strength from being a vampire, so he's outmatched by Scab, because Scab's like, oh, I'm so much stronger. Luckily, the guards that went with him were able to kind of free everyone. It's kind of sad in the end of the day, like literally everyone except Callie died. We'll get to that soon enough. But the fact is, at one moment, it's like, oh, the bullets are working. That's why I was kind of thinking, like, Doc must not made sure that the bullets weren't like a surefire thing. It's probably enough to slow them down, but it wasn't meant to be like, because she said like, oh, once they find out what I did, it's going to be a whole thing. I don't think she was necessarily just talking about like what she was working on with, the blood from the vial. I think it was more so like the bullet thing. It's probably like she knew it wasn't going to be a permanent solution. She was kind of pitching it as a potential one, regardless of the situation. It's not enough to slow them down, but it was enough to give Julius the upper hand, where he starts laying into Scab. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh man, he's about to beat Scab into submission, but it's like, nope. Literally, all those people they went through the trouble of rescuing, like I said, once again, with the exception of Callie, and all the guards that went with them are dead. So they're kind of outnumbered, and so Julius kind of has to submit to Scab. But then puts a grenade under him. I was like, oh, is Scab about to die now? But no, he's just laying there with his guts literally falling out. He's trying to put them back in and they're falling out. And it's almost this sweet moment of Ivory being like, ah, like she's screaming out because it's like, no, Scab. And it's like, it's so interesting. Like, I brought that up last season about just how they're like at the beginning of the season, how they almost had that like old married couple like relationship, and now you see, just to see it develop as to what it is. It's just so crazy to see that she does care so much for him. You would think because they're vampires, she wouldn't, but I guess it's because it's like, you've helped me, I've helped you. We've had this thing. There's this connection between us in that regard. So she got really pissed, but luckily because of Doc coming by, they were able to open the gate, and hey, Callie was saved, and so was Julius. And I love him being like, hey Doc, you did it, you opened the gate. And I'm like, right, I love that we're bringing that back full blown too. It's like, because for her it's like, she's almost laughing and stuff, because she's like, holy shit, I did it. It's like, I didn't let my fear get the best of me, because it was that moment of like, I didn't even think about that when she was kind of walking by, but it's like, no, she did it. And I think that speaks volume, because I didn't even think about that. It's like, right, that's a big moment there, and I didn't recognize it as one. it's incredible, you know. And I think in that moment she was proud of herself too. Like, yeah, like no more leaving people on the other side of doors and closing them and leaving them to their deaths. I got this, you know. So I thought that was pretty neat. But yeah, they all end up getting arrested because obviously, well, they need Doc because of like, oh, what you found out in that blood files and stuff like that. She's like, what report? Whatever, take her. Oh, Julius, you're healing? That's interesting. Take him too. So Callie gets left behind. Like I said, I don't know what that's going to turn into. It almost seems like this running through. I don't know whether it's going to be a through line or whether it's supposed to be like a wink and a nod. And is it supposed to be like a twisted gag or something? Because that kid always survives. That kid's been in the show since season 1. She's outlived main characters. That's what blows my mind. I mean, which isn't to say anything, but it's just so interesting to me that it's just like, what is up with that? Like, is it like that must be like that has to become something. I don't know what, but it must be. Regardless, I love, and also I can't talk about it enough. I love Neil McDonough, dude. Just anytime he kind of steals the show as kind of like a smarmy kind of scumbag, he does it so well because he's that kind of slick talking bad guy that you're just like, man, I love to hate you. And just like that guy being like, oh, you know, what's going down? He's like, what, you want to abandon Denver? It's like, nah, you got things under control here. Don't worry, we're going to send reinforcements. And as he's walking away, he's making a face almost like, yeah, yikes, that poor bastard almost believed me. It's like, what? And it's like, oh yeah, the moment we get, I love the guys not that far away, you're just still kind of like, yeah, when we get far enough away, drop the shit to kind of basically take care of things. It's like, that won't kill the vampires. It'll kill the people and make it so they won't spread it. So it's like, holy crap. Which begs the question, is Callie dead? It's like, no. She managed to get out of Denver somehow, some way. She managed to get out of Denver before that ended up happening. Maybe, maybe not. Because we see the doctor later on, that dude that he was talking to, we see that he later on gets eaten by Scab because Scab needs to kind of recover or some. That in itself was an interesting thing. And then we show up and meet, like, I guess, like, you know, other top level execs or, you know, the board or committee for Black Tech. And, you know, Henson has to, you know, answer for a lot of stuff. And so, what was her name? Avery is kind of bringing up a lot of stuff about the failures and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, everything that kind of went down. Yeah, I mean, our little experiments, you know, with Harrison and stuff like that, or Frankenstein experiments kind of went a little awry. But hey, you know, he's like, hey, brings in Doc and Julius, and Avery's like, what is that? And he's like, hey, 2 broken eggs. So I love that whole thing of just he could, like, he didn't bother just explaining because I guess showing is better than telling. So he just shoots Julius in the chest and whatnot, and it's like, hey, look at that. And Doc's explaining like, oh my god, like the possibilities of what we can do. We could take what's in him and give it to humans, and humans could be basically almost a little super soldierish in the sense that they'll have rapid healing abilities like vampires, so give us the advantage that we can kind of take things back. And then, you know, Henson comes over and wraps his arms around her. It's like, oh yeah, Doc is the person for the job, especially when she's amply motivated. So I love that. And just like there's some, like he brings a little something to every role where it's just kind of like I say, it's like, you're such a D-bag. It's like, but you're so like on the scene and stuff like that. He chews up the scenes. It's all like he like, you know, whatever scene he's in, he's just chewing up the scenery, and I love it. He's having so much fun with this whole situation. So it's like, hey, yeah, Doc, you get to work and stuff like that. You know, if you kind of, you know, you want things to kind of work out. Hey, the fact is, we'll get you a bigger, better lab than, hell, even before the Rising happened. So, and it's like, oh, Julius, yeah, we're basically initially going to use him as a lab rat, which Julius didn't appreciate that. Busted free, started kicking some serious ass, which then you had Henson being like, actually, I was going to get her to cut you to pieces, but you're a fighter. You're a good fighter. All right, we'll find somewhere else for you to go. And so it turns out he wants Julius to be this girl, Violet's training person, like sparring partner. And so I'm wondering what the hell that's supposed to be. Also, I thought was interesting, it's like, oh yeah, also, that's my daughter, which is just so funny to a certain extent. Well, I was about to say evil, but it's like we don't know what her story is. I just think it's kind of interesting because like we go from like having a special daughter in this situation, just like he had a special daughter in DC's Legend of Tomorrow, just Arrowverse in general, the whole Nora situation. Well, that was kind of more like a borderline evil situation. Nora's complicated, so I'm wondering, is Violet going to be complicated in the sense that like, is she evil? Like, I'm just curious like how they handle that. I wasn't expecting that to be his daughter, like, because I saw the two potential new heroes they're setting up this season and in the trailers, and I would have never guessed like, oh, so, but the thing is, because what I'm wondering is like, is that like your legitimate daughter, and like, did you experiment on her? Like, I mean, I wonder, because it doesn't seem like necessarily she's like enhanced. It seems more so like she was just specifically trained. So was she trained for this? Was she just raised as your daughter? Is she actually your daughter? Like, questions like that kind of arise. And so I'm curious to see how that whole situation ends up playing out. Like I said, because it seemed like they're setting up not only Violet, but someone else as kind of like a, hey, you're going to be the stars of this show. And that's like, we're going to be the new, like, turning tides to this whole situation. So was she specifically trained for the Rising? Did Black Tech know about this? Well, obviously Black Tech's known for a while about this whole thing kind of going down. So it's like, was she trained from a young age to prepare for this? Like, because I'm about to say, like, I mean, that's why I'm curious, like, what her whole backstory is, like, not unless she stems from, like, the Van Helsing bloodline, but you would assume that stopped with Vanessa and, Scarlet, but we'll see. And speaking of Scarlet, that is kind of an interesting thing when Vanessa and, Lily had going back to that room. It's like, wait, Scarlet's stuff was there. And I think it's very nice and symbolic that the weapon she's carrying going forward is going to be Scarlet's blade. I think that's pretty neat. Also because I'm very impartial to like swords like that, because katanas and like, I'm a kind of a bit of a sword nerd, and I kind of prefer a katana over whatever the case may be. So that makes me wonder, is that going to circle back or not? Because the actress who plays Scarlet, Missy, because I don't know whether the plan was always for Scarlet's story to play out that way. I haven't read into it, because I know she's currently, obviously she plays one of the main leads in the CBS show FBI, so that's why I'm kind of wondering, was it always planned like that? Was it just because of maybe scheduling and stuff like that, she couldn't continue to roll and they played her story out like that? Or maybe if time is available, I don't know, depending on what the production schedules are like and everything like that, maybe we still could see Scarlet pop up in some shape or form, even if it's probably just like in a vision in her head. But the fact is her body's missing makes me go, because I feel like they could have just, maybe they didn't want to do the whole thing of like, oh, we just have like someone who like, well, brunette hair lay there pretending to be Missy when it's not Missy. The fact is they didn't show a body at all, like her clothes are going, makes me think, that's going to turn into something. Maybe not. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I'm just curious about that. But it was kind of interesting. Obviously, Lily kind of has to take into fact is like, wait, what's going on? Also, I didn't even talk about the fact is that like Vanessa like had her eyes, like Sam dug his nails into her. I was like, geez. But because even Lily caught him like, why the hell are you healing so fast? But Lily has to be adjusted to the fact this, wait, I've been gone this long, stuck between life and death, which we never really found out why that was necessarily the case. I mean, I guess that's why she was supposed to be there to keep her between life and death, but also I guess they needed a Van Helsing in particular. Well, because if I'm curious, like if Vanessa had gone full blown elder, like would they have still needed Lily to be the Van Helsing they needed, or would it have been Scarlet? I'm curious about that. Or would it have been kind of like the Jacob thing, where it's like you are a Van Helsing, but you also count as the fourth elder. So I'm curious. Nevertheless, with that all said and done, I thought it was kind of interesting, because I kept thinking to myself, it's like, she's not bringing up the fact is of what she is, because I'm like, yeah, because she's probably like, yeah, Lily probably doesn't need all that. Just, no, I heal fast, so. But then she drops a bombshell on Lily, like, yeah, I'm kind of the reason why the world's kind of set in doom. In certain regards, it's like, I'm kind of the reason why they're basically in a way of getting to the dark one. It's like, why are you what? Why would you even do something so reckless and careless? Or for one, because she was kind of being blinded by the darkness. Is just the thing of like, she thought that this was the way to end all of it, which even Scarlet didn't agree with, but she's like, I still had your back during that. So it's like, I mean, you can make the argument the darkness was kind of making her think like, oh, this is what she really wanted, when in actuality, obviously, it was leading her down a path, as the Oracle says, that she was always going to go down. So that's a whole thing in itself. But But then, Lily eventually finds out about Vanessa's whole situation. She explains like, hey, I was an experiment. That's why I can heal so fast. I'm made with the blood of the Dark One, which Lily was like, oh, who would do such a thing? And it's like, well, that's a whole long story in itself. I thought something that was going to happen the moment Lily was kind of like, I guess because maybe her body had kind of, because being stuck between a state of life and death for so long must have taken its toll on her, so she hadn't fully like recovered yet. She was probably in a sense atrophied for like hundreds of years, but more so kind of like under a slumber spell. It was really interesting too, because Vanessa was like, well, if they can't get the blood, it's fine. It's like, look again, and looks at the vial and it magically fills up again. It's like, what the hell is that? I don't know, some kind of charm. We never figured it out, so it is what it is. So that's probably a thing of like, are we ever going to explain that? Nah, let's leave it as some magic charm. Okay, I can accept that. It'd be interesting if they did kind of explain that, but I'm fine with it. If they just leave it as it's a charm. I wonder, did that ever come up? The reason why they added that in there, because someone was like, if that's the case, why don't you just pour out the blood so they can't use it? And so someone wrote it in just to be like, the blood's poured out. Oh, it magically fills back up in. Never mind. I don't know that I was an idiot. I never even thought to like, oh yeah, just pour out the blood so no one else. Well, they didn't know at the time that someone necessarily needed the blood. It was just that it was important. It was a keepsake that the Van Helsing family passed down from generation to generation. So you wouldn't think to necessarily pour it out. But I guess if anyone thought like, well, to prevent them from it, why don't you just pour? Okay, you pour it out. I wonder what would happen if someone drinks that. Would it affect Vanessa? Would it make things worse for her? I don't know. But they're fighting off a whole bunch of vampires. Lily gets hurt in the process. She sees Vanessa cure one of the vampires, but more so than anything, she was almost borderline disgusted by the fact of what she saw, because she sees it's like, oh my God, look at you, what you've become. It's like, it's not like Vanessa asked to be what she is. Circumstances led to it. For one, like she said, I was an experiment. So much happened. The elder bit me and kind of untapped something that might have already been written in my DNA. Maybe he poured something, mutated my DNA even. Well, whatever the case may be. I mean, you're already seeing like the mutation kind of pass to other people, even those who are cured. Like, like Julius, like Phil, like with the whole rapid healing thing. So... But Lily looked so disgusted because Vanessa's like, hey, like I can bite you, you can get bit by this vampire, you can turn, and then I can turn you back. This way you can heal. But she was like, I'd rather not, because I guess for her it's like, I think she's probably almost pissed that Vanessa would even suggest that, because it's like, oh my God, like the blasphemy that you would even think something like that. Like I would never turn. Like the fact is you're so okay with even that notion. It's like, but because Vanessa, obviously it means a lot for Vanessa. It's like you're literally kind of the last closest thing she has to family now, because at this point where she is right now, she has no one. She lost Scarlet. She thought she did something good by saving Muhammad, and that turned out the way it is. She doesn't have Axel anymore, and she's kind of all alone. You're the last ties to her family, and now you die, on her. And even dying with your final words basically being like, oh, you've fallen into the darkness. It's like, Jesus. Scarlet literally sacrificed herself because she believed in Vanessa, and that has to be like a little bit of a shock to the nervous system, where it's like, oh, I'm your ancestor and I don't believe in you. It's like, Jesus, kind of basically saying everything's doomed. It was all kind of for nothing. It's like, well, thanks, Miss Positivity, like going out on the most pessimistic way. You could give her some notes of encouragement, but it's almost kind of like, you're almost like, why does it matter? Let me die. My time has passed. I get that, but at the same time, it's like, that's kind of, I don't know. I chalk that up as kind of being a bit of a dick move, kind of treating her like a monster. I mean, even after saying all that stuff of like, oh, you're Van Helsing, that's the whole thing. Like, yeah, your sister sacrificed herself, but we're there to kind of protect each other, to keep the whole Van Helsing line going regardless. But now Vanessa, it's like, no, I'm going to prove that there's still light, and that this light I have will destroy the darkness. It won't consume me. So she buries Lily and then leaves her sword there with her. So, like I said, quite an interesting way to start off the season, because there were certain things hinted in the trailer about her kind of going a little more pacifist, like being like going more the savior route. I think this is it, because for her, she's probably going to be more pacifist, which is very interesting. Obviously, having rewatched season 3 now, it's also like thinking about the Christ pose episode. It's the dude Simon that Axel and Scarlet met. I think we're kind of getting that same thing, which I'm curious. It's Vanessa and him going to cross paths, and that's maybe potential, because it's almost like she's going to be non-violent. It's like, oh, vampires is coming, let me heal them. I'll spread this hill across the world. The question then becomes like, well, will it modify other, like, is that going to be a way of spreading it rather than going about it Doc's way? Like, will Vanessa's way be the way to actually spread this whole humans having the ability to heal? I don't know, but I'm very interested to see, you know, where this all goes. Like, there's still, obviously, there's the whole Phil and Jolene thing. We didn't even tackle this episode, so that's something that's also, you know, the whole Loveland situation. So we got, you know, we heard about what was going to happen to Denver, and like I said, we don't know if, I mean, we know at least one person that got out of Denver. It was that dude who was immediately killed by Scab, but, you know, well, because the Sisterhood is leaving, but are they going to leave people there, or are they going to take everyone with them, because now Denver's fallen, so there's kind of like no big, well-known safe haven. So I think it's also going to be interesting, too, because we're finally going to learn a little bit more of the ins and outs of Black Tech, because I feel like they've just kind of been an enigma this entire time. But I feel like we're really going to go in strides and kind of learn so much more about them. So I'm very interested, you know, to see where that kind of takes us. Like I said, learn more about this whole Violet situation, who she is, and what she's meant to do. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.